ton of people asking us when we were going to get this player prop video out. Guys, we do it every Saturday. I'm sorry. I wish I could do it a little earlier for you. The issue is, hell, I mean, we have injuries we need to be on the lookout for. It's hard for us to go through and give you an up-to-date player prop video if we don't know who's going to be playing and who's not. But anyway, I'm going to be happy to go through, happy to dive into the player props that we have right now. Before we get into it though, please go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And of course, you can find all these player props as well as all of these over here. There are going to be a ton of them that we don't even get to on Underdog Fantasy. You can find the link to Underdog Fantasy down there in the description of this live stream. You can find it, hell, in the comment section. You can find it in the live chat. You can find it anywhere. And when you go and make your first deposit on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100, and you are going to get to hop into some fantasy football drafts during the season with us. But that should be it. Let's go through. Let's dive into this. First off, let's look at what we did last week. Actually, before we even look at what we did last week, hook 'em horns. Forgot to get this out here. OU sucks. We would have to make this quick so I can turn on this game real quick. Just had to get that out. So last week, obviously, we had the Cooper Kupp free bet that we were able to take that over with. That did hit. So I want to flex on y'all. Yes, I am so smart. I knew that Cooper Kupp was going to be getting at least one total yard. I didn't know if it was going to be rushing. I didn't know if it was going to be receiving. But I knew it was going to happen. And now going over to our next line. We took the Christian Kirk over 5.5 receptions. Horrible. I mean, I don't know why we did this. Obviously, brutal matchup going up against what is a very good Philadelphia Eagles defense. We lost that one, but our next one, we did hit the Richie James under. Not only did we hit the Richie James under, but at the same time, we went through and said, you know what? Let's not stop here. Let's create a parlay with this game. Let's go under Justin Fields passing attempts, under Daniel Jones passing yards, under Richie James fantasy points. That hit as well. That was very nice, especially if you decided to go through and throw up that Cooper Kupp free bet with this parlay. Oh, that would have been beautiful. But going over to our next one, we hit on the Michael Carter under as well. I mean, don't you worry. We're going to be talking about our guy Breece later on in this video. We missed on the Elijah Moore over here. We hit on the Jalen Warren under. So overall, a very good game, very good week for us last week. And we're going to be going right back to Daniel Jones to take another under. I know last week, maybe you make the argument, oh, Mason, you just got lucky. Daniel Jones got hurt. That's why the under hit. Maybe that's one of the reasons you take the under, because we know that that can always happen. And also, with Daniel Jones, we are going to be looking at this 29.5 rushing yards mark, where if Daniel Jones was fully healthy, hell, I would be worried about this. I would not be taking the Daniel Jones under 29.5 rushing yards. We know that Daniel Jones is a quarterback that has that rushing upside. That's why I thought that in deep superflex leagues, Daniel Jones was viable as a fantasy option, even if he wasn't going to be a great real life NFL quarterback, because he can go out there and run the ball. I mean, this past week, 68 rushing yards. The week prior, 79 rushing yards. Now, the first 2 weeks of this season, he didn't hit this mark either. So he's 2 for 2 at getting to about 30 rushing yards this year. But if we were looking at the ankle injury, not only the ankle injury, which severely limited Daniel Jones at the end of the game, but also Tyrod Taylor being out, knowing that maybe Daniel Jones isn't even fully healthy here. Maybe they're just having to play Daniel Jones because they have no other option. I think taking the under on 29.5 rushing yards, it's a fine mark. Now going over to our next one, we are going to go right back to the well with what we had at under 24.5 passing attempts with Justin Fields. We took this under last week, but last week the under was 23.5. It's still hit. And if we go through, I understand that yes, Minnesota's probably a good matchup for Justin Fields to get there. It's a noon game with Kirk Cousins. So, you know, Kirk Cousins is going to show out. You know, Kirk Cousins should give a good performance overall. However, with that being said, I don't know. I don't want to say, oh, they're going to have to throw the ball. Here with Justin Fields, 17 passing attempts week 1, 11 passing attempts week 2. That was a game where they should have thrown the ball. They lost 27-10 against the Green Bay Packers. Week 3, 17 passing attempts. This past week, 22 passing attempts. They're not letting Justin Fields throw the ball, and when Justin Fields does, you clearly see why they don't want him to. The under here is hit 4 out of 4 times this season. I'm fine taking it. Now going over to our next player, someone that was on our waiver wire video, Rashad White did expand his role in Tampa. And I think you should be excited to roster Rashad White. And the main reason that we are looking at Rashad White as an exciting option is the level of involvement that he can have as a pass catcher. Some people want to make the argument, and I think you can easily do it until we get to our guy Breece Hall, that Rashad White was the best passing down running back in this year's NFL draft. And for that reason, I think Rashad White could still easily get out there in the field in obvious passing down scenarios in the 2-minute drill, on 3rd down. However, with Rashad White, I think it's very premature to be saying that he is going to begin taking these carries away from Fournette. Fournette looked bad this past week. It looks like they are scaling back Leonard Fournette. Good matchup as well, but I think Rashad White, I don't want to say he's going to be like a James White type player, but he is going to be that guy that is usually just getting involved as a pass catcher and not necessarily anything beyond that. Now, our next over, I think it's our first over of the video. Breece Hall, 2.5 receptions. Sign me up. Breece Hall's only hit this twice so far this season. He is 2-2 with it, but hell, 27 targets. The man has had 27 targets. Only Austin Eckler has had more targets at the running back position so far this season. We've talked about Breece Hall enough. I don't want to be boring you again with the 10th video this week, just hyping up Breece Hall, the 20th video of the season doing it. But he is clearly taking over as that 3-down running back here. I think maybe you could make an argument that the 16.5 receiving yards may be a little bit more appealing. Regardless, I want to be taking it over on Breece Hall as a pass catcher. Now going over to our next line, we are going to have Curtis Samuel, 44.5. Now, y'all know with Curtis Samuel, this is a player that we've been betting against over the past few weeks. We're calling him a sell high option. We've been saying that we really don't want much to do with this offense. Don't want Terry McLaurin. Don't want Curtis Samuel. Don't want Jahan Dotson. And the reason for this is there were so many players, and I repeat, so many players in Washington fighting for targets with Samuel, with McLaurin, with Logan Thomas, with Jahan Dotson. And you had very tough matchups for Washington going up against the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, who have possibly two of the best defenses in the NFL. So it's really tough for Curtis Samuel to get excited about him overall. We were selling low. I'm selling high, but now I think we may be buying low, at least this week in particular, if we are looking at the fact that, hell, you have no Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson dealt with the hamstring. Curtis Samuel has been dealing with an illness. If you think that Curtis Samuel, you're worried about him being sick, yada, 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 maybe you go Terry McLaurin at 56.5 receiving yards. I do think that it's a safe spot to take the over with Samuel, though, knowing that it's a much better matchup against Tennessee, as well as no Jahan Dotson. They don't have anybody to fill in for Dotson there. Now, I think maybe that is our last one. Yes, that is our last one. So, of course, go over there, take these overs on Texas, but Texas is playing right now. I got to end this ASAP. Hook 'em horns, OU sucks. If you want to check out any of these player props, you can find the link in the description, the link in the comment section. Use promo code FLOCK. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So deposit $10, have $20 in your account, immediately get into some drafts with us, and also have some fun. Available in pretty much every single state you are going to have. I think there are like 6 states Underdog's not available in. But thank you. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. I will be live again later in the day, probably after the Texas game, with some injury updates so we can get ready to submit those starting lineups. But thank you again. I appreciate you and hope you have a great day.